you want to join the club, you might need a hat. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. David doesn't have a hat.
For what it's worth, I mean, if you had smashed the Flamingo, that thing is a tank.
My goal was to tell the people this is right or wrong.
What's your backup, guys? What's runner-up?
Another Trufoam 2. I'm just kidding.
I haven't done a Dupr match since like last June or something. I just don't play tournaments.
All right, we're rolling. I guess, I don't know, just a little recap. Pickleball Town Hall, that was the name. But the idea was just like getting everybody together just because we're all doing similar stuff. And, creators in the pickleball space and whatnot. And we definitely don't have everybody. I know we had a bigger list initially, but definitely got a bunch of awesome creators. And yeah, just no real rhyme or reason, no agenda, just, I don't know, chatting as we've been doing basically before we started recording. Yeah, and then eventually we'll have Rafa, and we'll all tease him when he gets here.
Sounds great to me.
Well, I already know, I figure an easy way to start off, right? The icebreaker that probably everybody wants. And I already know the answer for Chris, but, well, maybe. Tournament tomorrow. What paddle are you showing up with?
Trufoam for me.
Trufoam 2. I don't even know. I don't even know.
We can come to you last.
Yeah, I still don't know.
I think
even if you do come in last.
Might switch paddles more than anybody. Maybe more than you, Chris.
This indoors or outdoors?
Ooh, wow! I didn't get so specific. I don't know. Indoors.
Indoors, I would go Course Shapeshifter HX.
Ooh, I liked that paddle. I thought it was a fun paddle.
I'd go Super Court if it was outdoors.
Okay, what's the reasoning for that? Or what's
just
your
like
mindset
ball travels
there?
a bit faster indoors, so I just want a bit more control, and then outdoors I want a little bit more power, so I'll just go Super Court over Shapeshifter for depending on the conditions.
Yeah, fair. I played outdoors for the first time yesterday. Just like there's some courts by me, not first time ever, but first time since we have winter. Where are you, David?
I'm in near Washington D.C., so on the East Coast.
So you have winter too. But,
yeah. I can play outdoors right now. I just choose not to. I'm being bougie.
That's fair.
Playing indoors still.
I mean, I don't know which I prefer. I like being outdoors, but yeah, I don't know. Being indoors is nice too. Don't have to deal with anything.
I like being out there when there's no wind.
Yeah, it's harder to get courts. That I mean, you can't really reserve stuff, or at least not by us. So you got to mix in and whatever. And it's weird filming. I don't know.
Filming is a nightmare on public courts. That's why I'm very thankful that I've had friends that have their own backyard court because, then I just do it at a facility where I can reserve a court because everyone just looks at you.
It's easier.
Yeah, it's way better.
And now, in some amount of time, you won't even need your friends with backyard courts because yours will be done.
Hopefully,
you'll be good to go.
Fingers crossed. My painter made it sound like mid-April. Potentially.
Oh shoot, that's awesome. That'll be like just in time.
So is there a special paint they have to use or like that's kind of gritty or like what's the story with the paint?
So I'm pretty sure they do. I don't know if they mix it with sand. This part I'm still a little unfamiliar with, but the court itself is already very gritty. In fact, the concrete itself is too gritty. We tried to play on it, but it puts concrete dust in the ball and then destroys the surface. So I think they do mix it with a sand, and that's kind of how it gets its gritty texture. And then I believe it is a specific type of paint. I don't think you could just take any paint and slap it down. They do a whole layering process for each paint, and there's some specific steps to it.
What color pattern did you pick?
I think I ended up going, so I put up 3 on Instagram. I did one that was all just one color. Everyone hated that. Then I did a 2-tone one and then a 3-tone one. So it's a really dark purple blue-ish for the service boxes. The out of bounds area is green because, green. And then the kitchen is a slightly lighter or mid blue. It's actually very similar to probably a lot of facilities we have here. I know Pure Pickleball. Theirs is exactly like that, and there's a handful of public courts that are the same thing. So I was like, okay, I filmed on this type of court so many times, and it works. So,
are you gonna have issues with the ball going over into someone else's backyard?
So We won't.
You have those 20-foot nets on all sides of his yard.
Thankfully, we won't have that issue. There is one fence that like it could have happened on, but we're redoing the fencing in our yard to put a privacy fence in just so my neighbors aren't staring at me all the time while we're playing. Pretty much all of them. Let me rephrase. 2 out of the 3 are very cool with it, and I think the third one is warming up to the idea of it. But I was like, I just don't want anyone looking at me. Plus, the higher fence, the ball is never going to go over it.
Nice.
Okay. I was just thinking about in Vegas where like a couple balls got blasted over to the neighbors when you were there.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, yeah, 'cause that was for the YOLO event, right? And that was at, like, somebody's house or something?
Yeah.
Okay. Dang.
That was a sick backyard. My backyard is not that cool.
I would imagine. I mean, I saw some photos or videos or whatever. I was like, all right, that's cool.
Did I see 2 courts?
Yeah.
2 courts.
Yeah, that was pretty sick. Pretty much my entire backyard is now just a pickleball court.
I was going to ask, what's the, like, ratio of court to backyard?
Well, now you don't have to mow the lawn.
Exactly.
Well,
That's true, yeah.
that was actually one of the reasons I was very excited when we put this in, is because, I mowed the lawn a few times when we bought the house, and I went, holy cow, this backyard is gigantic. This is really annoying. So now maybe if I had to put a guess on it, like maybe 25% of the backyard is still grass. Maybe.
That's honestly nice.
So is it a slab of concrete, or do they do anything, to try to prevent settling or cracking, in the future?
Yeah, so there's 2 main options you have when it comes to building. Well, okay, there's 3, but 2, in my opinion, that are actually good. So you can do concrete and rebar, which is what I ended up doing. And then they end up placing these saw cuts in the concrete, which is basically just how concrete is going to crack no matter what. So they put these cuts in it so that it cracks along that area instead of like cracking all down the entire court. It basically controls where the crack can go and prevents it from expanding. So what I have will eventually break down, but my pad should probably last, I don't know, probably 10 plus, if not more years, with some like minor cracking here and there. And then the gold standard, which doesn't really crack to my understanding, is post-tension concrete, where they do something where it pulls a bunch of tension inside the concrete and it's like extremely strong. And if you can do that, that's what you should do. But there weren't really any post-tension concrete people that did courts, so that wasn't much of an option.
Huh. Dang, that's crazy. What a learning curve.
Dude, there's a lot to learn. I'm literally, when I go to Texas soon for the Adidas event, there's a big court builder in Texas, and he runs a Facebook group where I got most of my information from. Oh, and cool. I hit him up, and I said, dude, we need to do a podcast or some form of video, because I'm going to make a whole video about my court.
The
and
process
I said,
and stuff.
There was so much to learn and so much bad information out there that I was like, I actually want an expert on here who can tell people, don't do this, do this, because it's a lot to filter through.
Dang, that'll be cool. When Adidas event is soon-ish, right? I mean, I'm not going, but
it's in like a week and a half.
All right.
April.
Is it what, paddle release, or I don't even know.
I think it's just some new paddles.
Metabones 2.0.
Yeah, hopefully it's good.
Maybe Metabones 4.0. They'll skip like 2 versions and they're good to go. I never hit that one though, to be fair, so I can't say anything.
You can skip it. I don't know. Well, David, did you ever hit it?
No, I saw someone with it, and he asked me if I wanted to try it, and I was like, nah, I think I'll pass.
Yeah.
It's bad when a paddle reviewer doesn't even want to try it.
Dude, it's hard to keep on top of. I mean, I feel like, especially you, Chris, and probably you, David, too. Like, you guys probably get even more than I do, and I'm just like, it's a lot. I don't know. It's a lot to.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's so much to do, and I want to. I mean, probably like you guys too. Like, I want to do a good job. Like, I want to actually get some hours in on it or whatever. Each paddle, and it's just I don't have the time.
Yep. I mean, I'm sure everyone in here would agree. It's literally impossible to keep up, and that's why I'm late on almost every review that goes up now. Is just my like the rule. Okay, it's not really a rule, but what I've just kind of done since I started is, every paddle gets roughly 2 weeks of play testing, maybe a week and a half. And then if it's less than a week, I usually just call it a first look though
Okay,
usually
yeah,
our first
yeah.
looks are maybe like an hour or two of hitting or something. But anyways, it just with that amount of playtime, you literally cannot keep up. Like there's four, 5, 6, 7 paddles that come out in a month sometimes. So it's like, okay, well, 2 weeks, you're never going to get to all of them.
Yeah. I took the page out of Matt's book and did here's the paddle of the week. That's not really my approach, I guess, but just those like mini, I don't know, a little more digestible, a little easier to do, kind of. But I know, Matt, you said your last one was like an hour and a half, which is crazy.
Well, just because
Or maybe it isn't. Yeah, that's how long it took or whatever.
Yeah, just because of multiple takes and whatnot. Like some weeks I like to go really, really wide. And like I've played a ton of different paddles, and then other weeks, I mean, I've only been doing this 5 or 6 weeks, but then I just go deep into a smaller subset, you know?
Yeah.
But I feel like, you know, you get all these paddles from these brands and like there's no obligation or strings attached to it, but you still want to at least play a few games with it to see if there's a spark there.
Yeah.
And so that's what I try to do. And, you know, just to talk about it for no other reason other than I like to talk about it, you know? And so some weeks, I have played like 11 different paddles, and I've probably played 3 hours a night from like 7 to 10 PM. And so like there's a ton of time to get a ton of games in to talk about or learn about and then talk about a ton of different paddles. And then other weeks I don't have as much time, you know, but either way, it's still fun to just try to figure out the nuance of, you know, how this paddle compares to that paddle or how it feels to me versus that one. And, like the biggest surprise to me in the last, I'd say week or two is, and I'm super late to the Technofiber party. And maybe it just came at the right time where I'm just like, losing a whole bunch of confidence in my game because I don't know which side is up, because I don't have a main anymore. I don't have one I can go back to and know that I'm just going to play great with it.
Your safety net's gone.
Yeah. And that Technofiber TF Select came along and it's like, whoa, I can control the ball. I can put it where, relatively close to where I'm trying to put it. And that's about the same time I've got the Pro Ultimates and the GX2s and the Flamingos and the Thrive Smoke, all of which I've really, really enjoyed playing, some more than others. But then that Technofiber TF Select came along, and I don't have any affiliate association with them at all. I'm just like, I really like this thing, and here's the reasons why.
Yeah, totally.
Dang.
But I envy you guys that have a paddle that you can lean on, you know, and I'm sure I'll get back to that. I have to, but I don't have a paddle right now where I'm just like, this is what I'm taking to a tournament tomorrow. Besides the fact that I don't really like tournaments because I can't seem to play as well as I do, and I'm just having fun playing with friends.
That's why you invite Chris to be on your team, and then you feel a lot more comfortable because he's so stable as a player. I can run around and do dumb stuff and crash the net and 5-0 play.
I'm just curious how many times you hit your thigh if you got a bruise on that thing from that weekend, or if you played that well, you didn't have to hit your thigh.
I don't think I hit my thigh once. That's my go-to.
You definitely slapped your leg at one point.
Okay, I did it once then.
I didn't see it, but I think I maybe saw you guys lose a point. I turned to talk to someone, and then all of a sudden I just hear smack, 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 and I was like, "What was?"
I don't. 3 might not be me. I'll hit my leg like once.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not like breaking paddles or nothing.
So this is like taking your
durability
paddle and
testing
smacking your thigh, right?
What? Yeah.
Okay, I was just trying to envision what this like hitting your thigh.
He said, "Don't loop me in with those animals. I only do it once."
Yeah. 3 times? I don't think so.
I've never seen you do it more than once.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. That's just like I'm at the end of my rope. You know what I'll bet it was, Chris? We played one mixed game and we just got smoked. We lost
it was
like 21 to
game.
4 or something.
Yeah, because
and
you guys
I just did not have an answer, and I was like, okay, I'll come in middle and cover a little more, and like they were both very good, and I was like, okay, I'll return to the girl. I came in middle, and she put me like cross court, like those like drop drives, like 4 points in a row, and I think that's when I was yeah, exactly. I was done.
Yep. That was tough.
That was a frustrating game, but
I have picked up
Rafa.
that bad habit from you, though. Unfortunately,
Hitting your thigh.
Yes, and I did
It's
it
a
in
good
Edina on or my league on Monday was just a disaster.
No, it gets you into gear.
God.
It's what you need sometimes, like a little pain stimulation or whatever.
I've
Then
really
you're good to go.
been enjoying playing the Flamingo, and I played it that night, and I almost got smashed
Yeah.
just because of how I was playing. I'm so embarrassed to say that, especially in a public forum like this, but I was just
delete.
exasperated. Like, I don't know what to do. Nothing's working. I went from the Hyperion, 16. I just like needed a little bit more touch of control, a little bit more firmness in it, and played great for the next 2 games, and then just lost it. Yeah. This is what I was like, league and tournaments. I don't play as well as I do in rec games, even with competitive friends. What? Here's the deal, though. Like, I haven't played as many tournaments as you guys have, and so I don't really have a partner, a mixed partner, or same, whatever it's called, partner. But league is a different beast, which I also think is kind of dumb that I do it, because, it's all Dupr recorded. You're playing with whoever they matched you with at the supposed same level for that week. And then you got to figure out their playing style so you can play off each other. And the learning curve is just huge. And maybe that's why I get so frustrated in league. Now, if I'm playing with people that I know how to play with and we're sort of moving in harmony, that's one thing. But that never happens in league. So I just probably need to stop playing in league. They're decent games, but I don't have fun.
For what it's worth, I mean, if you had smashed the Flamingo, that thing is a tank. It's the most durable thing I've ever seen in my lifetime.
You actually break your leg before you smash it on your thigh.
Exactly.
That's one thing we don't really test, huh? Like, we test durability, like grit, or like, is this thing gonna need a warranty replacement in 6 months? But we don't really test, like, how mad can you get at your paddle and you can still play with it the next day. That's how you need to. Maybe you set yourself apart that way. Somebody's got to do it.
I was just thinking about, because when Diadem, when they announced that their like edge guard is going to be different on the blue cores for like better protection, I was thinking to myself, what would look legit on a review to test this without me looking like I'm just playing recklessly? And I've got nothing. I've got nothing other than I'm going to go out and I'm going to intentionally try to scrape balls through like digging or like just low balls that I shouldn't be driving.
Just tear the edge guard up
and just see how it compares. Exactly. There's no other way.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what their new material is or whatever.
Do you guys all play in league, or do you just do tournaments?
I've done some leagues in the past, but it's funny, the way that I view leagues at this point is the exact same way that I view rec games. Like, it's not that I don't care, but like the serious level that I'm willing to put in for the league is the level that I will put in for a rec games. Like, I never really feel any pressure. And granted, the leagues I've historically played have been with a lot of people that I am friends with, so that probably contributes to that. But I'm like, when someone takes a league way too serious or they start like getting really mad, I'm like, okay, whatever. Like, I just don't care anymore.
But do your league, in the league you played or play, is Dupr on the line? Because it is where I go, and that's why I get irritated.
That would make me try way harder, but I also purposely do not do a Dupr league, because
I gotta stop.
In what you're describing, a random partner plus Dupr, that I wouldn't even attempt it.
It's been disastrous the last 2 weeks, and my Duper's gone down a lot.
Yeah.
I refuse to stake my Dupr on a stranger. There's no shot.
I should just quit it.
I'm not doing. I mean, Matt knows I'm not doing any league right now. I've done that Dupr league, but it was a long time ago, or one like it, and I kind of have similar feelings. I think it's, I don't know. Like I mean, me and Matt have texted about this. I wish I could say I don't care about my Dupr, but I do, and also like, I don't know. Yeah, there's a lot more variables when you're just partnering up with whoever's there, and you got to figure it out, and you've got 15 points to do it or whatever it is, and
Yeah.
I don't know.
No one
Stressful.
in this call cares less about Dupr than David. David has the right attitude about
Yeah.
Dupr.
I haven't done a Dupr match since like last June or something. I just
Dang.
don't play tournaments and
Yeah.
don't do league either. I just kind of test paddles out. Was
Are
gonna
you,
take a
do you
step
just have
back.
like a group that you play with? And
Yeah, I just play with
Yeah.
friends basically. I just
Okay.
do some rec play.
That's
Mainly,
awesome.
I was taking a step back at the start of this year because I was training for the Washington D.C. High Rocks race. So I was gonna prioritize like doing some fitness over like pickleball. But then race is coming up this weekend, and my wife just got injured, so we had to pull out of the race. So now I guess
no,
pickleball for me. Yeah.
Oh,
what type of race is that?
It's like a fitness race, so it's basically there's 8 stations, so it's like 8 exercises, and before each one you need to run a kilometer. So
Okay.
like
Jeez.
you have to push a sled, pull a sled, do like 50 burpees, and like jump as far as you can. So a bunch of those exercises, fun
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. Dang. I don't think I could do that. I can't run, so
Oh no, last time I tried during like practice 2 weeks ago, like you have to do like 100 wall balls at the end. I threw up after that, so I did
yeah,
not
I
feel
would
ready
be
for this weekend
done
anyways.
for. Oh my gosh.
What's the weight on that wall ball?
15 pounds, I think, was the
Oh,
competition.
100 tosses? Oh,
Yeah.
Ouch.
that's a lot.
Yeah.
It's just like never ending, and then you have a judge like making sure your butt's going below your knees, and then you have to hit the target dead on. If you go higher than the target, it just doesn't count. So they're very strict on
Crazy.
everything. Yeah.
Jeez.
That's wild. Yeah,
USAP
I'd be
needs to-
curious, David, how you feel about this, because I'm sure this will happen to you eventually, Matt. The more you do this, I don't know how long you've played pickleball. I know the review side of things is like newer, but I've definitely found that with the whole like paddle switching and like throwing your game off, there are definitely paddles that'll make me play worse and that are for sure more frustrating to play with. But I think eventually you have hit so many paddles, you have literally hit every style and experienced almost just what any paddle can be, that at some point you just know how you have to play with a certain paddle, and it's not that it doesn't bother you anymore, but you're like, okay, I'm just gonna have to play this way to make it work. Because I remember when I was newer, it was like, oh my gosh, this is impossible. And now I'm at the point where it's like, okay, these games I'm gonna be like a 1/10 of a point lower than normal.
yeah. I try to bring a paddle to my league because it's Dupr stuff that I trust.
Yeah.
And then everything goes, sideways. And
You gotta start with the paddle you trust. And then
I'm just
you
no.
work
I'm
your
going to
way out
stop
of
doing it. I'm going to stop. Well, I take it back. I probably will continue to do league, but I'm just going to create another Dupr account. And if they don't let me do that, then I'm just going to delete my Dupr account because I like the games are intense, and I like that. And I would even join the league back that you and I played in, Bobby, but I wouldn't use my like real Dupr in it because there's just a lot of friends there, and it's fun, but it's not fun when there's something on the line, and the people that you're playing with aren't playing like there's something on the line.
We just got
You
set
know,
up
it
our
is
own
nice
league.
though doing something like that, because what I always find the best test of a paddle is like if I can play in a tournament with it, I'm like, yeah, this thing passes. Like I can clearly, like, I know in the worst case scenario how this paddle is gonna play, and if I play well or bad, then I kind of know like this is how I would portray this paddle. Like some power paddles, when you play rec with friends, it's like, oh yeah, this is cake. Then you go to a tournament and when your grip is like a 9 out of 10, you're like, oh yeah, this is a lot harder to play with.
Yeah. Yeah,
Right.
I mean, not that I'm doing like a ton of tournaments or whatever, but the games that I care about, I feel like take up a good chunk of my time, and then I don't have time to review paddles because I only want to play with the ones that I like, and then I don't know.
I just group
you've
everything
brought-
by their like shape. So it's like if I'm like this past week was just hitting all wide bodies, and then my gameplay was a lot less aggressive than normal. And
Yeah.
then like the week before was like hitting hybrids, and then probably going back to elongated paddles this week. So I just try to group everything, like all the paddles I'm reviewing by their shape, and then just hit it that for a week or two, and just try to keep my game consistent with that.
Yeah.
That
You got your
idea
filth
has
gripped
never
up,
struck
Matt.
me.
Yeah, I do. I played them a little bit last night, and they played they're the same construction as the OG. So they should play similarly, except just a little bit lighter or faster in hand because of the shape. But I did put these Bodie orange standard grips on them. But you said
Nice.
standard shape, so I thought I'd just pull out the standard shape. Just so
Show
everybody
everybody
can see
what we're
standard
talking
shape
about.
is,
Yeah. Get a visual. All right, so
Yeah, that's
confirmed Matt has trust issues and will be sandbagging leagues with his fake Dupr account moving forward. Let's
No, I
end
won't
the call here.
sandbag. Just
it will be Matt with one T.
yeah. No, I did. So I did create one. Some people complained about it. It was Mateo. My name is Mateo, that should work, right? And like, who's this Mateo guy?
Well, they probably went into league and they saw the roster of who was on their court or whatever. They're like, yeah, who am I playing with? This guy. How'd this guy get on the top court? He didn't earn
And
it.
they can't do anything if I just delete my Dupr. I don't know.
There's actually another guy in the same state as me that has the same exact name, but his
Took on my
Dupr is like
pickleball?
5. No, it's like same like first and last name. But
Yeah.
like his Dupr is like above a 5.0, and then but his age is also like 50 something. So now people when they see it, they're like, all right, David's either lying about his Dupr or his age. Like, which guy is it?
One or the other.
Yeah.
That's funny.
That's pretty good. I don't think anybody has my name that I've seen close by at least. But dang.
Yeah.
Rafa, what was your I know you joined in late, which is totally cool. What would be your paddle that you'd take to a tournament tomorrow?
Can't say the Ripple.
Oh, but the Ripple is so good. Shoot, if I, that's such a good question. If I had to take one tomorrow, because like I've been shopping around since I crushed my Spartus at TXO.
You crush it on your thigh?
No, what's funny is as you were telling that story, I remembered right before I played my final mixed match at TXO, I was watching the next court over, and the team that lost, the guy, like we've all seen that video. There's like one video that was circulating months and months ago about that guy who like launched like frisbeed his paddle over a fence. This guy did exactly that straight into the lake that's right there in McKinney next to the
dang.
venue. He literally exactly how the memes dictate it. Dinked the ball straight into the net to lose the game. Grabbed his paddle and just flaw, and that thing flew. Like the wind
Jeez.
grabbed it, and I just like it disappeared, like almost behind the horizon.
That's
But-
another test. You got to do the paddle frisbee test.
Yeah, we got to do like that's got to be some like aerodynamics thing. I'm immediately implementing that in reviews.
USAP
moving forward.
destruction test.
Yeah, that's the actual that's the swing weight. Is actually it's a measure of how far you can throw your paddle once you lose a game. But shoot, if I had to take one right now, I'm really shoot. Am I really going to say the Agassi Pro? That paddle is so ugly looking.
You're allowed to do an indoor and an outdoor.
Okay, so indoor would probably be this is a great point. Indoor would probably be the Agassi Pro 14. I still really don't like that shape, but like how it looks, but just that like there's something about like the plushness and especially how I play singles with it. I'm really loving that thing right now. If it was outdoor, an oldie but a goodie that I'm feeling good with it recently. I think that is one thing that I'm really taking away is that it's more difficult for me to go in and like set on a paddle. I would rather go into like games with a paddle that I'm feeling good with at like going in, even if it's one that I've just been testing recently, just because I already feel confident with it. It's just like the momentum. So an oldie but a goodie that I've been hitting with recently is the Mavericks Pro X, the Havik 15 Mavericks Pro X.
Interesting.
Is that the one with the?
Yeah,
Like the
yeah.
corners?
Yeah,
You just
the
like weird
hexagon
shaped
thing.
paddles is
Yeah.
what we're finding.
I freaking guessed, dude, because that wasn't even like the regular like Havik 15 Pro. I didn't really even like it. I liked they had the Clash shape, which is that one right there.
Okay.
I liked that one much more when they launched them. But the Pro X, it's just like when I'm playing outdoors, I feel like I need more firmness. Like I need like those paddles that like do an extra face layer to get that level of like like consistent firmness across the face. And the Pro X, it just like has the long enough handle that I also need. So yeah, right now it'd probably be those two.
Okay. Good answers.
What happened
I
to
have
your
no idea.
Olympus? Did
People
you say you? Oh, sorry, Chris.
But yeah, we need the
No,
story.
go ahead.
No, I core crushed it.
Okay.
I went and I was so I lost mixed. I'm so mad. You know who knocked me out of mixed at Texas Open was frickin' shoot. Oh, why am I gonna blank on the name now? Makes the graffiti machines.
Oh, Brian.
Brian, thank you. Brian Fitzpatrick. Brian and his daughter Emily, if either of you watch this video, I cannot believe how bad they beat us like 15-4. It was honestly not particularly close. So shout out to Brian. But
Wow.
no, they took it to us for sure. But yeah, so I was playing some singles afterwards, just like messing around, and all of a sudden, like they like could not control the thing. Ball started rocketing off, and I started like feeling around a little bit, and it was towards like the upper edge guard. Got that look, and I'm like, oh, wonderful.
Is that the first time that happened with that paddle? Because I've heard it has had some issues. I don't think I've crushed any cores.
It takes a lot. For some, it takes a lot. For others, not so much.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's the first time it's happened. No, actually, it's not. It's not, because when Chorus, which they told us about this ahead of time, but when they released the fires, there was like an initial batch that like there was a manufacturing defect, so that my SX was hitting like harder than my mod at some point, and it was going like donk donk with every shot. And I was like, this is not how a standard shape paddle plays. So that's the only other time it's ever happened. But like I knew ahead of time that it was a possibility. And then when he gave me another one, because I did like an on-court interview with him a few days later, then that one was totally fine. But yeah, no, that's just the only other paddle that I've really hit recently where I'm like, this thing can core crush really quickly is the Luz Cannon. I was talking to you guys about this a couple of days ago. I went out and I tested that thing and I ran the power numbers on it. I'm like, okay, well, this is practically a mod regen. Thanks, UPA, for releasing this back into the world. And then immediately I heard the glue after I hit 2 serves. I hit 2 serves and I already heard glue rattling. I'm like, okay, this is fun. This is a great start. And then as soon as I was done serve testing, I started feeling, especially along the foam area, and I can squeeze in a little bit, and I hear it. I know it's there. So I got to get a couple more games with it and see what happens.
How long have you hit it? So, because I hit it for like the first time yesterday. Mine, like, it sounds really hollow. It's really loud, but it doesn't have as much power as a mod yet. But I do think it will get there. My fingers can press in a little bit, and this is just like it coming straight out of the box. So
Yeah.
I think it's for right now. Like, it sounds louder than it actually hitting, but I think it will break in eventually.
Yeah, it's definitely like it's not where the mod started for me by like 0.4-ish miles per hour or so. But I mean, I have not played a single game with it. That was me hitting it straight out the box. So
Wow.
I haven't hit it yet. I've got it on my table in my stack of paddles.
What?
Hey, listen.
How much like I'm gonna ask this. What do you think the factor is of the like weight that you would add to a paddle, plays on the cores or any of the surface layers, potential to degrade? You know what I mean? Like if you're playing
Like how does
stock,
adding weight impact
yeah.
the degradation or whatever?
Because Chris, like you mentioned that your C4, what is it? C45 He had issues with that. One of the ripples, or maybe a couple of them, I can't remember. I've heard a bunch. And do you add a lot of weight to your paddles generally? And do any of you guys think that, adding weight, therefore, adding additional mass can contribute to a more accelerated breakdown of the paddle?
Yeah, I don't know. I know the only brand that I can think of off the top of my head there could be others, I'm not aware of them, but 60, I remember fairly early on basically said, if you put weight on our paddles, we consider you voided the warranty. So I don't know if they actually had a study that showed them, hey, paddles do this, because it was pretty early into them being a company. So I kind of want to say that it may have been more anecdotal, hey, paddles that come back to us are more core crushed. But that was also at the time when companies really didn't know what was going on and were scrambling to fix it. So all that to say, I have no idea how 60 landed on that, but I know they did do that, maybe still do that. And then for me, I would say most of my paddles probably get it depends on the paddle, but probably for me on average, it's between 5 and 8 grams, which I don't think is too excessive. Yeah, it's not. The C45 was, I'm sure I could do the math. That was more because it was so light. But I think it's certainly possible that it could lead to that. And I feel like a lot of people who break paddles typically have a good amount of weight on them as well. But whether it's entirely because of that,
causation,
I don't really know.
Correlation.
Has any of your Trufoam paddles degraded?
No, mine's rock solid.
No, mine's fine.
Me either. I'm just curious.
It hasn't even just been me playing with them. So since I don't main them, I let them out to be demos to my local facility. So people have been hitting them at hours a day for a while, and they're no complaints so far.
That's good.
Yeah, I've had other people hit mine. Not the 2. I won't give that one up, but the 1 and the 3. And yeah.
What do you guys like
obviously
about
my
the
time
2?
on the 2.
Swing weight.
Yeah, I mean, I really like the 3. I know I don't think you agree with that, Chris.
I mean,
but I think
wouldn't be the first time you were wrong, Bobby. I'm just kidding.
I'm with you. I like the 3 too.
I like the 3.
Really?
It's too heavy for me. Long term, I don't think I play with it as well with it as the 2, but I've also put way more time in with the 2, so it's hard to compare there. But when I play with the 3 more than a couple hours, it was starting to hurt my elbow. I'm also a little susceptible to that, and obviously everybody's tolerances for that are different. But yeah, if I could get the 3 shape, because I think Matt knows this, maybe other people, whatever, I don't enjoy standard shape paddles. I would pick a hybrid or elongated 10 times out of 10. But same as Chris, the swing weight for me. And then I didn't like the 1 because the longer handle. I'm weird and I hold really high up on my handle, and it was pointless. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, for me, the 3 is just, I cannot do that one. I mean, that is probably my least favorite style of shape, period. But specifically on the 3, that it just felt so clunky. Everything of sweet spot didn't feel good. It felt slow in the hand. Everything playing with it was kind of meh. And then the 1, I actually did like the 1, and I could probably play with it, to be honest.
Yeah.
But I think the 2, I like mine with the right weight setup. I liked how it hit. I liked the wider sweet spot a bit more, and obviously the faster hands, never hurts.
I mean, I'm very into the idea of if they release a hybrid shape and can keep the swing weight down and stuff, I think that would be I'd be very interested in trying it. But yeah, with the 2, it's the 2 felt the closest to playing with the hybrid to me, I guess, is the encapsulate, whatever statement.
What's your backup, guys? So I know you guys are Trufoam 2s. David, I think you said Shapeshifter and Supercourt. Rafa, I think you said Agassi, and what was the other one?
The Mavericks Pro X.
Mavericks, yeah. So what's runner up?
Another Trufoam 2. I'm just kidding. The runner up for me would be a Vapor Power.
I don't have the vapor powers, but it might be that. I really liked them. I think for me, before that, my main was the Invader. So I'd probably go back to that.
Wow.
Interesting.
And before that, it was the Shogun. And I picked up the Shogun, so I hadn't hit the Shogun in a year, maybe? Or so, I don't know, whatever. I'm terrible with time, so maybe you might be like, it actually came out 9 months ago. I'd be like, oh, okay, whatever. I hadn't hit it in a very long time. And then I'd been playing with the Invader, now playing with the Trufoam, and then just drilling the other day. I was like, I'm going to bring the Shogun because I had a friend that was borrowing it. And so it was in my bag, and I was like, ooh, I remember why I really like this paddle. So I don't know, maybe Shogun.
You see, that's where I was at with the Pro X. I pulled it back out because it was just on my wall somewhere. And I was like, oh, let me rip it, pull it back out. But they're working on some things. I was trying to remind myself of where they were at before. And I was like, dude, I really liked this paddle. I didn't think they were going to release it, so I didn't review it. And then they just did. And I was like, oh, cool.
I was on the same page as you. I didn't know that paddle came out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, I don't know. That'd be my answer.
David?
So this is the whole question is what would I bring tomorrow? So backup would be the ISO Ryu. That's just one
interesting.
I just play really consistent with that. I was doing wide body testing the other day, and out of all the wide bodies I was hitting, I feel like I didn't have the highest skill ceiling with that paddle, but I was just the most consistent with it, and I played the best. For the wide bodies, I would take the Flare Prime X and the Pegasus Power over that, but for consistency purposes, I always just bring up the ISO Ryu. That's just one that I'm just really safe with.
Yeah,
that's what Lewis's wife plays with.
ISO Ryu. What's your runner-up, Rafa?
He's doing the same thing I do all the time.
That means I didn't have one.
I can't tell you how often someone will literally shoot me a email or a DM, and if I just happen to be in my basement, the first thing I do every time is, what's on the wall?
They're like, what paddle I should get? And you're like, let me see.
I'm like, I need to remind myself because there's so many these days. I'm like, I'm probably missing one, so I need to scan the wall.
Exactly. Yeah. It's I can't, if you ask me what I was hitting at my session, on Monday, I probably couldn't give you the comprehensive list. Shoot. I might have to say the J2K. Not the Plus, but just the regular. The regular J2K. I still remember my first time hitting that paddle. I was like, this could be big. And then there it was, and it took off.
Yeah, J2K is still good.
What about yours, Matt? We didn't actually get your main or your tournament paddle either, though. No. Fair. So we might need all of them.
I don't have one.
It'd be weird for you to know your backup, but not your. Yeah, exactly.
Like I said, I'm really enjoying that Technofiber TF Select. Yeah. It maybe it's because it reminds me so much of the J2K. It's just in a 15 millimeter core. I don't know if it has more punch or power. It just feels so easy to control. And then my backup, God, it would be probably the Saga Flash.
Yeah, I know you liked that paddle a lot when it came out.
It's a good paddle.
How much do you think of that, though, is hearing you talk about it, and then obviously we were talking about League and whatever earlier. How much do you think is mental on that?
For which the paddle or playing in competitive games?
Well, I mean, I guess ultimately all goes together. But thinking about this is the paddle I would take tomorrow to a tournament, and also this is my backup because I like it. I just feel really comfortable with it. Is that just because do I feel good with the Invader because I had a good tournament with it or two or something, but I could easily just show up tomorrow and get smoked with it, and I'm actually not good with it? You know what I mean? Is it just you feel comfortable because you've performed well with it, and that feeds into feeling more comfortable and performing better with it versus picking something up and that you haven't played a lot with?
I definitely think playing well with a paddle, I'm sure for everyone factors into it, but I think it probably just depends. Like, I feel like I've hit so many paddles now, and usually because of the time period that I do mine over, like at this, people actually, this is a funny thing people say to me all the time. Like, let's say I'm playing in a league and I happen to be playing with, actually, I think this happened with the Perseus, the Pro 4 one night. I was playing in a like open play or a league. I can't even remember. Anyways, I was playing really bad, but it was just me. Like, I was just physically exhausted. And all my friends are like, the Pro 4 is going to get a bad review. Chris is playing bad. And I was like, no, I can tell the difference now when it's me and when it's like the paddle is the problem. And I was like, tonight it is not the problem. So I think at least for me, like the playing, like if I had one nice play session with it, it's like kind of easy to disregard that and be like, could have had a good night, could have been the paddle. And then like when I see it over the, 2-week period, and that's especially why if I do have a tournament, that does help, because then I can kind of be like, okay, again, worst case scenario, how did I play with it? Held up pretty good. Okay. So, but I'm sure I'm sure for some people like out there, not even reviewers, I'm just talking players, like
anybody,
they have a good tournament. They're like, oh yeah, this paddle, this is the one,
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, I guess I didn't even think about outside of reviewers, but I know like multiple people who are like, if that's just their paddle, like they're just like, yeah, I don't know, I like it. I think there's mental for sure.
We all have a collection of paddles that have earned trust, right? You trust that. And if you take it somewhere, some high stakes situation, it's in your bag because you trust it. And it might not be behaving one particular game, and so you put it back in the bag so it can think about how bad it's been, and you grab the next one.
Yeah.
I mean, and maybe that's also, maybe I could play better in higher stakes events if I only took one or two, but my bag always has like 8 in it. So it's like, oh, I always go like, which one do I want to start with?
Yeah. My suggestion would be, if you're going to go to league, like the way that I typically do it these days, if I have to play even remotely serious games, like let's say I got into a group that I'm like, okay, like I don't get to play with these people often, and if I have to review a paddle, like I'll still go hit it, but like if I had a bunch that came in, I am definitely not taking that time to go test 5 paddles. Like I'm going to pick the one I'm either actively reviewing, or I'll just say, you know what, this isn't a work night, and I'll play with the serious one. But like otherwise, other days, I'm just hitting those 5 stack of paddles.
When is the last time any of you guys have taken 1 or 2 paddles anywhere? No more than 2.
Like actually, let's see, what's today? Today's Thursday. 2 days ago.
So you did it. Okay, I can't remember the last time I did that.
Yeah, for your league, I would probably do that, and then any other day, bring the huge stack.
I feel like a lot of times I end up bringing a lot simply because I just pick my bag up off the floor and go. But there are times that I go where I'm like, I want to bring all these paddles because I want to do something with them. And then, like, I had probably 8 paddles with me at that tournament, Chris, but like, I had no intention of touching them. They weren't even on my mind. They were just in my bag because I didn't clear it out. You know what I mean? Or like when I go drill with Chris and I have to play him in singles, I'm only going with 1 paddle in mind because I got to perform and try to get at least 4 points on the board is like my goal. So
yeah, I purposely have a smaller bag. So I have like 1 bigger bag, what I do for when I'm like shooting content.
That's
and I
smart.
need a bunch of paddles. But when I'm going to like a higher level open play, like I'll only bring 2, and that's what, like I'll just bring the small one. So I purposely can't fit anything else in here, or else I just actually no space. But
All right.
I actually gotta head up. But thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, see ya,
See you,
David.
See you guys.
Catch you later, David. See you soon.
I'm gonna use that model.
Yeah,
I
that's
also think
actually
it's
smart.
Unless you're gonna go do like Isaac and I sometimes, like let's say if it's before a podcast and we had a big week of paddles show up, and there's stuff we may want to talk about, we'll go out, drill for like an hour and a half, 2 hours, and we'll kind of rotate through paddles and be like, this one is like interesting in a certain way, or this one's not, and we'll kind of get feelers for all of them, and then maybe we can talk about those on the podcast. But in general, I would say taking no more than like 3 paddles is better, because let's say you only have an hour and a half, 2 hours to play actual games. If you bring 7, 8 paddles, like you might get a game with each of them, and then at that point, I feel like you didn't actually get to know any of them that well. So I break mine into like, what is the goal of this session? Am I just trying to get a broad overview to figure out what the next week is going to be? Okay. Am I actually trying to review the paddle? Okay, then I'm not bringing any more than like 2 or 3. And then those other 2 are strictly to compare to that paddle.
Yeah. That's a good approach.
No, I do the same thing that David does. It's actually why I love the Court Caddy, is because I space-wise get mad if there's more than 3 paddles in the sleeves because I have like the OG and with like the rigid folder construction. So I take that to tournaments because it forces me to take like no more than 2-ish, because I also put like a towel in there and some element or whatever, and so that's the move.
Yeah, that's smart. I hadn't even thought about doing that. I just have the one. I mean, I have multiple bags, but I just have the one bag that I always keep stuff in, and I don't know. Pickleball is already spilling all over my house, so I don't know. I kind of like having that one bag.
If y'all could see my floor right now.
Yeah. I've also got like, I film in like 3 different places, and I don't know. There's a large portion of my house that's just dedicated to filming in pickleball.
The funniest thing, okay, it's not really funny in the moment for either me or my wife, but it's always funny in hindsight.
But it's funny here.
Yeah, it's funny here. But so like throughout the week, you know, a bunch of packages will show up, and then like some paddles will remain on the kitchen table, some paddles are in the living room, some paddles are in some other random spot, and eventually when there's finally too much and my wife's like cleaning stuff up, she'll just take everything and just like dump it in the office, and it's just like a bomb went off of like
now it's just
paddles and I'm like, okay, sorry, like I should have moved that, but yeah, it just spills everywhere.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
What is your guys like? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Bobby.
Oh, I was gonna change the topic, but
oh, okay. I just figured that you hated me, and that's why you cut me off.
Yeah, I heard you starting, and I was like, he actually showed up 5 minutes late, so he doesn't. We're limiting what he gets to say. Yeah.
So mute by the leader. No, I was just gonna say I still live in like a small apartment. So like when I get the packages and they end up like on the couches, my girlfriend's also in medical school, so she cleans about as frequently as I do. So at some point I'm like, I can't record videos in my office anymore, knowing the apocalypse that is outside on the couches and on the dining room table, because we live in a condensed space. So I go, and now I have like boxes, like I save bigger boxes from like when I think it was Honolulu who sent me like 7 paddles at once one time. I'll save those boxes and I will use it to graveyard paddles that I have no idea what to do with yet.
And your paddle wall is turning the corner, it looks like. I like it.
To be honest, this is like, I hope nobody sees it. Like, I do this because, again, it's a condensed space, and so I'm working with certain angles. Like, you can see my closet is like peeking out of the side right there. I don't like that at all. So I'm working with like 10, 12 feet of space here. So like it honestly, it really influences like what lenses I choose to record with, like exactly what angle I want. So literally the only reason the wall, this is it. It doesn't extend further because this was all I needed in the past to convince people that the entire wall's purple.
Love it.
Yeah. Small offices, it's tough. My apartment that I was in last year my office was tiny, and it was tough.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask, what do you guys have like a go-to? Like, what's your process start to finish? Like, you know, whoever sends you paddles or a paddle, whatever, gets on your doorstep. Do you have like a regimented process, or are you like? I'm somebody who's I do not like, routines are not my thing. I'm very different approach to like every paddle or whatever. Are you guys similar to that, or do you have like, you're like, okay, I got it. I will spend the next 1 week hitting it. I will put together my thoughts. I will film B-roll. Like,
for mine, I wouldn't say it varies, but it's just that since we're almost always behind unless I get enough notice, or there's just like a really high profile release and I know everyone's going to ask about it. Then that one, sometimes sometimes things can bump
or something.
Exactly. They can bump up the priority queue, which honestly, that is not a great system either because that can throw other things off. But I would say for us, let's say I know I'm getting in a paddle and I know everyone's going to ask about it. I will start hitting it. Probably the first like 4 sessions, paddle's completely stock. And then after that, I've got my thoughts. I'll jot some stuff down. I'll probably jot down some questions I think the viewer will have. Then I add weight, see how it plays for usually that's the remainder of it. So the last like week and a half of testing, write some thoughts out. And then I'll have one giant day where I just like for the most part, flush out the entire script. And then I'll have one more day where I let it sit. And then I come back and go like, okay, hit it one more time. Do I like still feel like this is how I feel about everything? And then obviously somewhere in all of this, there are days that are strictly for like a comparison day. Like if I'm hitting, a power paddle, how does it compare to the Pro 4? How does it compare to a Paddle Tech? How does it compare to a Vapor Power? Because I know people will ask about those. So I mix in those to have like a more informed opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. You guys
and then,
do something
after that, it's just a bunch of shooting and editing. Like today, actually, Isaac was shooting all the B-roll of the GX2 because I know we're going to review that. So, like, that also helps because he can get a head start on that. And then,
Yeah. Are you guys asking, maybe, I don't know, whatever, but are you guys asking for multiple sets of paddles when you get them? Or do you have certain companies that just do that or know that, or certain that refuse that?
No one's ever, I don't think anyone's ever refused that for me. I have tried to tell most of the companies if I can get a duplicate that is appreciated. Now that I think about it, most of them I actually probably don't get duplicates, but sometimes that works out because like let's say a company does 3 shapes. Like I don't really need 6 paddles. Like, but
Fair,
if I know I'm going to review it and I know it's one I'm particularly interested in, or that other people will be, I try and always get a duplicate. One, to either cut it open to check for things. Usually it's the one we used so that if something broke, we can catch it. But then also if it's a paddle that I know may have a break-in period, I like to ask for a backup so that I can say, or like, how does it compare to when it was new? And
you can hit it side by side. So I think of that on the side of like B-roll. Like I think that's a huge hang up for me. And so I'll wait until I get like a stack of paddles and then I'll shoot B-roll for all of them. But and I'll try to like change it up, but I don't really love that because I don't know what I'm going to do with it yet. Or if anything, like I've definitely shot B-roll for paddles and then been like, I'm never going to do anything with this. I'm not going to end up doing a video on it, whatever. And it just ends up being a waste, which is really frustrating, but I like having a clean paddle. And so I get like hung up on that kind of, whereas I feel like if I had 2, and I do have some places that will send me 2, which is nice. I can like start playing with it right away, formulating ideas, thinking about, what I want to talk about and how I want to show it. And then I can film the B-roll when I'm ready for the video. And I have a much better idea of what I want to show, how I want to show it. Like it lets me be a lot more specific and less generic, I feel like. And it also speeds things up for me, but that's a good point of comparing between one that's broken in or whatever and one that's not.
Yeah. I've only recently started asking for duplicates. To be honest, the reason I probably didn't in the past is because I wasn't confident that they would give it to me, that they would find value in actually providing me a duplicate. But now, especially, with like deconstructing, and then my process, you asked that before, Bobby, it's hard to pin down for me because it's constantly evolving. Like now it's including some level of like inducing break-in so that I can test before and after, et cetera, et cetera. So things change all the time, but having that duplicate does allow me, I do it almost only I've only started branching out on it for paddles that I know I'm going to review, because then I know that I should probably get a duplicate to either, to cut it or compare before and after stock, initial versus break-in. But yeah, the main reason I wouldn't do it before, and I probably only done it the last like couple 2-3 months or so, is because I didn't think that companies would actually. I was surprised that they were sending me one, much less
Yeah, fair. Yeah.
sending me multiple.
Yeah. I don't cut anything open yet. I'm a little scared to do that. I'm not a very handy person, so I'm afraid I'm going to hurt myself maybe, but
I envy that Dustin can go and you too, Chris, and like John, and y'all actually can like somewhat feasibly record yourself like looking legit while cutting a paddle open. Because what I look like is I grabbed I got a handheld jigsaw off of Amazon, and I am out on my patio in sandals with no gloves. And I'm cutting I just got a clamp before I was doing it handheld, and I was just
gosh.
ripping through those things. It was the most unsafe. I studied engineering in school. This is the most unsafe thing I have ever done. And it really is not worth it. Like, is it worth losing a finger to review the Thrive Smoke? I don't necessarily know that story is going to go well down like I think it will.
Oh my gosh. Well, at least you're recording. If something happens, you go viral or something.
That's the thing, is that I don't record it. It's because I'm like, I don't
purpose at all.
There's literally no reason. Like, I don't. The worst thing, the reason that I bring up the smoke is not for like anything about its performance. It's just that that's the most recent video I put out. It's super ass. And part of the reason, I think at least, is because I actually, and a lesson in asking for duplicates, I forgot to shoot my B-roll, like 95% of it, before I cut it open. And I did not realize until my saw was halfway through it. And I was like, fuck.
Dang. Just glue it back together. You're good to go. Nobody will notice.
I had a lot of B-roll included of me showing off the core. That is like it. Shoot, I took advantage of that while I could. At least I took one pic. Like, I took a couple of pictures of it, and so I just went into Resolve and just removed the background and just used that as best I could.
That works. Yeah. Hey, it's a good workaround. Dang.
How about you, Matt?
I am more spur of the moment. Oh God, there's actually a lot here to unpack. So I probably don't get as many paddles as you guys do, but it seems like there's several deliveries a week. And I'll play a lot of like general open plays at Lifetime with my wife. It's not really competitive. It's just more an opportunity to hit it and just start to feel what the paddle feels like. And if there's a spark, I'll say, after a game or two, then I might just make a mental note of it. Like, I want to dig deeper into this and then move on to the next one. Like on Friday nights or Saturday mornings, I'll go with 8, 9, 10 different paddles, and I'll switch out every game, just looking for something that interests me. And I don't always find it. But when I do, then I'll dig deeper into it. Like I said it again, that Technofiber, just, I don't know. I just like it.
Yeah.
And then I'll start making mental notes throughout the week or adding stuff to my reminders app about things I want to do, because it's not my real job, so I got to carve out the time to play it, record it, get that B-roll, and my stuff is not as polished as your guys's. But I just go for more, I guess, quantity over quality, just because I don't have the skills yet, I think, to deliver your level of quality. But that's
now
what I'm kind of going for.
FX30, so
but now I have an FX30.
Basically, there.
I aspire to that, but like, editing takes so much freaking time that I just want to poke my eyeballs out with an ice pick. It's mind numbing how much time it takes. So like, anyway, I will shoot stuff throughout the week just because I have an idea. and I don't know if I'll use it. Most of the stuff I don't use, but it's just I've got an idea, and I'm not doing it for any other particular reason than I find it interesting. And if other people do too, cool. And if they don't, fine. All this is just because it's fun for me. It's also a creative outlet for me.
For sure.
And see, that's the best way to do it. Like, I feel like this applies far outside of pickleball. I think just content creation, YouTube, and probably a lot of other things. But best way, I think, is when you start with, I just like doing this and I enjoy sharing it. And if other people like it, so I mean, that's literally how my channel got started. It was just like, I'm already doing this and having fun, and I think someone will find value, so I'm just going to post it anyways. And if you don't, cool. If you do, awesome. And then turns out people did.
Yeah, for sure they did. Then, so like if I do a review of a paddle,
a full, like, dedicated review?
I feel like I'm only doing 3 or 4 of those a month. And then I needed...
Which is a lot, by the way.
I was going to say, that's a lot.
That's good.
This whole time...
You said only, and I was like, ooh, I'm nowhere near that.
But
this whole time, Matt, you're really selling yourself short, because if I was as consistent uploading as you are, I would have more subscribers than Chris. I'm kidding. But like I wish I envy your level of consistency.
Oh wow. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I was gonna just wrap this up by saying, like, I'm getting all these paddles. You're getting all these paddles. And yes, if you think about it from a business point of view, it probably cost them $17 landed to them. And so sending it out to me is another $5. So it's $20, right? The cost to acquire one of their customers is probably anywhere between $30 to $90. So if there's a chance that somebody as small as me talks about it and it sells 1 or 2 paddles for them, they came out ahead, right? But at the same time, I want to kind of pay respects to the people that sent me stuff, assuming I find a little bit of interest in it. And that's why I started doing this paddle of the week thing, just so like I can talk about more things without going super, super deep. Because if I go super, super deep, then I don't have time to do anything else. And if I want to go super, super deep, it's got to be something that I'm super, super interested in. Otherwise, I just like, I don't want to talk about it. If it doesn't interest me or if I hate it, then I don't want to talk about it. And then somebody said to me, he's like, well, if you're always positive in your stuff, then people aren't going to buy into that. And maybe there's an element of truth to that. But at the same time, like, I'm not interested in spending time on something I hate. You know, like, how, actually, maybe that's a question for the group. How do you do that? Let me put a pin in that. And then I'll finish by saying my process begins more Saturday night, where I start to script out what I want to do for that paddle of the week thing. And then I'll finish the script on like Sunday morning, assuming I got enough B-roll and stuff. And then I'll shoot it in about an hour or 2 if my camera doesn't overheat. And then spend the next, 10 hours in the evening trying to edit it and make it look somewhat presentable.
Yeah.
That's my thing.
So my thought on getting back to your point before that, though, like my thought on, like, I'm the same way. I don't want to do, I do less videos and I spend a lot of time on them and come up with a creative concept and do all this editing for the little bumper video. And like, I'm not going to do that for a paddle that I hate. And I don't think that makes me disingenuous, because I think the line is, with paddles that you are doing reviews on, or paddle of the week, or mini reviews or something like that, are you willing to say things that you don't like about them? Are you willing to say like their shortcomings or areas where you want to see improvement? And you can still be overall neutral or positive about the paddle, but I think it's just like a time and a commitment thing, where it's like, if this paddle is just like factually bad, I guess in my opinion, so maybe not factually, right? But like, where I'm just like, I don't enjoy this. I don't think there's any redeeming quality. I don't think there's anything unique about it. The expectation for me to spend 20 hours on it is silly, I think.
At the same time, though, I respect you two guys for being critical. I just wonder
Yeah.
when you're in the process of, reviewing something that you're ultra critical of, do you ever get to a point where you're like, this is a waste of time? Why am I talking about this? Because I don't even care about it. But you have a different audience. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel like I'd be curious on Chris's thoughts, because I feel like you've had some, not like bashing companies or anything like that.
I mean, I've definitely had those.
Well, I wasn't gonna say it.
He's had a couple.
It's funny though, because it always depends who you ask. This always makes me laugh or smile so hard, because I've had companies where they get I've honestly had companies get neutral reviews and be upset and be like, you were so negative, and I'm like, okay, whatever. But then the funniest thing to me is when I have given like a pretty negative review, and then like that company's not particularly happy. They're not really mad at me, but you can tell they're not pleased with it. And then I'll have another company or just like someone else. It's like, man, you were soft on them. And I'm like, bro, like this company over here
not
is
according
like,
to them.
yeah, I'm like, so I just think it's funny because I can never win. It's like, oh, you weren't mean enough, or like, it's like, okay, whatever. But anyways, I think for me, like, I view it a little bit differently. Like, it's less of I guess I don't really view it as a waste of time, but more as like, okay, this particular review may be much less enjoyable for me personally. For example, like if I'm going to do old paddles because like I just remember them, and there's more bad paddles from a while ago, but like the Metal Bone, the Franklin STK, the Engage Pursuit Ultra, and then like a couple other in there. Like, I did not enjoy testing those paddles. That was not fun for me. I wasn't playing good pickleball, but like I still put them all through the same ringer because like I knew ultimately people were going to ask about them, and they're still like, even if they're not going to buy it, they still want to know. Like, the way I view it is, I am saving you money from buying this thing.
That's
like,
a good point.
Oh yeah, very good point.
Because when I started, that was the whole goal. Like, as a consumer before doing reviews, I was like, I don't know what's good and what's bad. And if someone can just tell me, or like, I want to become the person that tells people this is good, this is bad. And I think people, when they just see, oh, this is good, this is good, this is good, this is good, everyone's like, well, like, can they all possibly be good? Like, how do they stack up? So to me, those, negative reviews are helpful across the board. I think it builds trust, but people also understand like, oh yeah, I'm not going to buy that. Thank you.
How do you choose to do that though? Like, you're not doing a dedicated review for every paddle that comes out, right? So I guess that's where my hang up is. Like, it's easy for me when I get a paddle that I love to be like, oh, I'm totally going to do a review on this. Like when I got the Trufoams or whatever, like, I love this paddle. This is great, whatever. How does a paddle that doesn't wow you get a slot, basically? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I have like 2 to 3 rules, and these are like pretty core to like how a review gets done. Number one is my audience asking for it? And if it's a paddle that's unreleased, do I think they will be asking for it? And depending on the brand, like, it's pretty obvious, right? Like, if it's Yola, everyone and their brother's going to ask because it's Yola. So like, okay, that's easy. And then number 2 is, do I personally find it interesting? So like last year, that's how something like 11.624 got discovered. Like, they sent me a paddle. Originally, I had zero care in the world. I happened to take it out on a test day, and I was like, wow, I love this thing. Then I went and won a tournament with it, and I was like, okay, well, it's a good value, good paddle. I'm going to talk about this because I like it. And then the third thing, I think number 3 can like kind of flip-flop, depends. Like, there are some brands, like, you just know, okay, maybe they're not going to make something good, but like, it's still interesting to people,
or
right?
They're gonna
like,
try something new or different, or
for like the Metal Bone, that was pretty different when it came out.
Yeah.
I knew like I'm not gonna have droves going, dude, is like the Metal Bone the next best thing? I knew that probably wasn't gonna be it, but I still thought it was interesting because they did something different that no one had done, and the price was also high. So it's like, well, does expectation meet reality? So
True.
I would say those 3 things are like the hierarchy of how it gets onto my plate. And so there may be a paddle that my audience is requesting, and I'm like, gosh, I hate this thing. Like, I do not like play testing. This is frustrating. But if that's what they want, well, that's what I'm here for.
They want. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's interesting. I arrived at nearly the exact same like core ideas. Because like ultimately in the beginning, especially like when I was just starting YouTube, I felt like I felt a lot of pressure to almost provide value back to companies that were sending me things. And so there were times when I was harsh, but could have been harsher, or the times where I could have reviewed a paddle that people may have been interested in, but didn't because I didn't want so much negativity on it. But slowly, but like almost immediately, it did me so much more good to talk about the stuff that people wanted to see. Or if it was for me, the only other thing I'd add to Chris's process is if anything is like new or innovative. So like the true foams, if carbon was a nobody, they aren't. But if they were, the true foams are still innovative. I would have talked about them. It's the first Gen 4. Like that's on the market. So that would have gotten a review regardless. But yeah, anything that it did me a lot more good, especially, and I know it will for the brand moving forward, to where if a paddle, like at some point, if I feel like a paddle is bad, the only reason I'd review it is because I feel like it needs to be talked about. Like I know that either the rest of y'all are going to talk about it as well, people are asking about it, or it's like a mainstream brand that everybody wants to know about. And so kind of exactly like Chris said, I feel like I am inherently helping somebody make a decision, whether I feel positively or negatively about something. Exactly. Yeah. Like just to the C45, because it's my most recent one to memory. That's a pretty lukewarm review, in my opinion, probably a little bit more like 60 negative, 40 positive, because like there were things about it that, first of all, everybody wanted it. Somebody hit me up and was like, 2 days before Texas Open, was like, dude, do you have a C45? Like I did this, that, and the other to my other brand name paddle that I won't say. But like I was like, no, I don't. I'm sorry. But the whole idea that like the whole like glue loosening thing, I mean, Chris just obviously discovered something the rest of us didn't in terms of durability. The whole idea of like, there were several things about it that I felt like this is not a typical consumer experience of a paddle. All that people are talking about is this thing is powerful. You need to add weight and it's powerful. These are like the two common things. And so I felt like I needed to discuss the other aspects of the consumer experience outside of those two things to give people an actual picture so that the paddle doesn't land on your doorstep and you're like, this is not what I was expecting. I was expecting a paddle that was just like, no issues, amazing, plush, whatever, add a little bit of weight and I'm good to go. And I'm like, that's not exactly what I personally felt. So, but it's a paddle that needed to get talked about because everybody wanted to know. And so I think I really align with the thoughts there.
Also, really quick, I think it's, for every reviewer, and maybe people do this, maybe they don't, but like, when I started my channel, like my vision for the whole thing was like literally crystal clear from the beginning. It was every review that I watch right now, for the most part, felt like it was either paid for, sponsored, or like an ambassador. Not that there was that much content back then, but I felt like it was very hard to find any real opinions. Like my goal from the start was, I am a consumer. Buying something expensive and having it break or not perform the way it was advertised would be extremely annoying. So like, I'm just going to view this like I am the average consumer, and like, how would I present this to a friend? Like I wouldn't go tell my friend, hey, you should go buy this expensive paddle that breaks. Like I would tell him, hey, it's expensive and it breaks, but it does do this. So if you're okay with that, like go for it, but know what you're going into. Where I feel like, and I can understand why. I think when reviewers are newer, they are afraid like, oh, if I say something bad, companies won't send me something. And that's possible, but my experience, like I was brutal from the very beginning. Like the first few companies
set the tone early, so they knew.
Exactly. The first couple that sent me paddles were Selkirk, Diadem, and Gearbox, and I'm pretty sure all three of those got bad reviews. Right? Well, okay, let me rephrase. The Warrior was a good review, but the paddle broke, so I was pretty critical about that. The Gearbox was not a big fan of, and then Selkirk, I think I basically said like, yeah, they're borderline lying about this spin claim. And so at that point, I was like, look, if they don't want to send me a paddle, it's probably not a company like I really want to talk about. Like my goal was to tell the people this is right or wrong. And I think companies for the most part are willing to understand when you may be critical, and I think most of them will not go, yeah, this guy was a jerk, never going to work with him again. And if they are, I don't know, do I really want people buying that? I don't know.
It means more to them. Like it feels like your word means something to more of them. The more you're honest with your feelings. And the other thing is, I'm sure Chris, you experienced this as well. I've had companies that first paddle they sent me, I either didn't review it because again, I was in that stage where I was like, if I feel like I'm going to shit on this paddle, then I'm not going to talk about it, or I gave it a bad review. Months later, as my brand continues to grow, they reach back out with their next thing and they're like, oh, we've been working on this for a while, great to see you, like we're going to send this to you. And I'm like, are you the same people who were harassing me? Are you like the same people who were harassing me about the last review and how bad it was? Like, what is going on here? So it just, your word means more than anything else, in my opinion.
It's an interesting take. You guys are definitely helping me think differently about it.
Yeah, me too, a little bit.
Like,
this 2025 is gonna be the year of negative reviews for me. Just to bash everybody. Just kidding.
Well, no, I mean, it's
what Chris said. I know
you only have so much time, right?
Yes.
And so, but to your point though, I guess there's a large part of this that's, well, what about the people that are choosing to subscribe and choosing to watch you? Like, what are they interested in? And it's not, it might not necessarily be everything that I just find great because that's all I want to talk about, but it also might be, 30% of my audience is interested in, Acme paddle, and I have no interest in it, but I should go take a look at it. And if I like it, great. And if I don't, well, here's what I think.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. The way I've always viewed it is, how can I help the most amount of people with the video I am making? And like, for example, if there's a paddle out there that like 3% of my audience cares about, unless there's something really special about it. Like, for example, there's plenty of these, Gen 2 clones that are like a dime a dozen at this point. Yeah. Companies will reach out. It's like, okay, like probably less than 1% of my audience, this review would actually help. So like, I'm not going to spend time on that because you guys aren't really adding any value into the market. But putting a bad paddle into the market or a good paddle into the market is valuable to know one way or the other.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Agreed.
Chris is just the best of us.
I just try and think like the average Joe. That's all. And I guess people,
No, I like
that's
that.
what we all are, right?
I think that's a good approach. Yeah.
For sure.
No, the fame has clearly gotten to his head. And
yeah, he's done for. He's cooked.
Yeah, we're done. Chad, is he cooked?
He actually, in the middle of this, he Venmo requested me. He's like, "This is for my time being on this."
No, that was actually for carrying you in the tournament on Sunday.
Well, it's a combo, I think, actually.
I actually just realized it was technically like geographically possible for all three of you to like be on this call in the same on like the same place, and except for me. This would have felt like a panel interview.
And David for a good chunk of this, but
well.
Welcome to the Minnesota Pickleball Chat plus Rafa.
Yeah, plus Rafa. That's
Jesus
funny.
Christ. That's so interesting. Like, do you guys have like what's the like competitive like player scene like near you guys? Like, I know that there were at least a couple of pros up there. Like, is that still the case? Like, do you guys have like a decent number of people who play like are like competitive, like trying to break onto tour, things like that?
We have, I wouldn't say it's like a large amount. Like if you go to like a Florida, there's probably a lot more, but we definitely have a number of people that are either aspiring to or are actively doing it. I think we have, I'm probably going to miss a few, but I think we have between 3 and 5 that are actively touring. At least 3 of them are signed to the PPA. Actually 4 now, I think. But they're not, always making a main draw or anything like that.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I would say Minnesota has a very dense population of like 5-0 to about 5-5. And then the people who are really willing to commit to going past that gets slimmer.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. I feel I aspire to be good enough to play with them so that at some point I can get them into reviews. That's like the current goal. But like right now, there's like a drought in the middle. Like we have Noe Cliff, we have Judith Castillo, we have Robert Slutsky, we have like some pros like George Congdon that like break into the main draw like on PPAs like 50% of the time. Like we have like several pro players in the area because it's Texas and it's Dallas.
Yeah.
And then in between that there's a few people in like the 5-0 to 4 or 5 round, like a good chunk, and then there's just nothing until you're at like I just picked up a play by Artie paddle from Target 2 months ago. Like there's just
You've got a review
serious
coming
drought.
out on that, right? That paddle?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. No, they sent me their whole lineup.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm gonna replace the entire wall here
Just
with their
that.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we're all in the same area, but I feel like Chris probably knows it better than I do.
Yeah, you can definitely find a good. The only thing I'll say that's different from a lot of states that the way Minnesota is and probably because we have so many indoor facilities and half the year you're indoors. But I have people all the time say, "Hey, I'm coming to Minnesota. I'm looking for some 4-5 plus play. Can you let me know the parks or facilities where I can find that?" And I would say the true competitive 4-7-5, 5-0 and up a lot of times are just in groups that they just play with all the time, or maybe they're in a league. But
There's
you are
very little.
Yeah, you're like not going to walk to a park and see 4-5 plus play. Like very rarely.
There are a couple people like the light blue team that we beat to go to the championship, Chris. Mm-hmm. The guy who was wearing the red hat, he plays at the park by me a lot. I forget his name. Can't think of it. But so the park by me will have like a couple of good players, but you're never going to get a 4-5 game because you always unless you wait a long time and all keep your paddles together and whatever. But yeah, I agree. I think it's hard to find if you don't have your crew to call, it's really hard to find something that is both labeled as 4-5 plus if that's what you're looking for, and actually requires, is Dupr enforced or whatever, and outside of tournaments.
And I think particularly it's because all the players, if they have limited time, they just go, okay, well, I know the people I want to play with. I want some good games.
Yeah, you don't want to risk it.
Getting 8+ people at a public court for 4-5 play, and then if it's busy, everyone's like, okay, well, we have to wait forever. So people either just go rent a court at Lifetime with their membership for free, and they just skip the whole public court thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. The indoor facilities in Dallas are going nuts. They're this is a great problem to have, but there's 5 or 6 that are just popping up all in the same area. And it's people this area, Dallas, this triangle, Dallas, Austin, Houston, the plethora of people. But it's a Dallas specific issue where it's you're either really good and you run with the pros, or you're almost there and you run with the almost pros, or I honestly I'll see you at the same park that everybody goes to, waiting in line with the other 65,000 people. There's no in between.
Yeah.
Dang.
I think we're just spoiled because we have Lifetime. We have so many Lifetimes here.
Lifetime is really nice to have.
I don't know if I like the Lifetime. The courts at my closest Lifetime, they feel like they have a basketball court built underneath them, and I really don't like it.
They might.
There's a very good chance they do, because some of ours do that too, and it's they just reconverted a surface because pickleball got popular, and we have some of those, and everyone hates playing on them. But since the CEO or founder is from here and really likes pickleball, he has made a lot of nicer courts, so we have less of that issue. But I think the rest of the country, if pickleball's starting to come up, they convert one first, see how it does, and then decide. So in that way, there's probably a lot of states where Lifetime is not nearly as nice as what we have.
Yeah. Literally we have Westlake, which is like one of the richest like suburb cities in the country. So they of course have a Lifetime there, and like they have outdoor courts, I think, which are nice when you can play outside and it's not 170,000 degrees. But like the indoor courts is just like it's three courts that I'm 90% sure are on a converted basketball court, and that combined with the Lifetime balls, I'm just like, please do not invite me to play indoors at Lifetime. I'll play outdoors for the month and a half that it is bearable to play outdoors.
Yep.
Dang. Well, I want to be respectful of everybody's time.
I don't.
So you guys can continue a call with Rafa.
I'll stay in here by myself. I'll keep the recording going.
Well, actually, Rafa has to go for another 10 minutes after us, after we all leave to make up for lost time. We were talking about solo podcasting before. Actually, that might have been before we were recording. So.
Oh my god, I hate that. I started mine for the same reason that Matt was talking about earlier, where it's just like I have so many paddles that I want to give thoughts on, but will not review, and so. Sometimes review, but that's like the whole reason I started my pod. But I really, really, really don't have a good formula for doing it solo. So I'm like seeking a co-host, or just trying to seek different ways to like. I just need to switch it up. Essentially, if I'm going to talk me alone for an hour, you just gotta find like some type of variance.
Chris, you got to pass along that application you got. Or whatever the resume
that co-host application.
Is Isaac not cutting it anymore?
Well, I keep joking on the last few pods. Isaac started playing. He's actually playing tonight. He started playing some tennis. He just got invited with some other buddies that play some pickleball. And they're like, "Yo, you should try it." And so now Isaac does it as like a decompressor away from pickleball. Like he's not trying to play serious. It's like literally the night he goes to, they don't even play real games. I think they play like some drill style, like some more fun style tennis games with a bunch of people. But anyways, he mentioned it on a pod a few times, and then I just joked. I was like, all right, we're accepting co-host applications. Let me know. And someone actually emailed me one, and it was hilarious.
That's funny.
That's so funny. Man. Yeah, it's so funny because like he mains the Shogun from a brand whose mantra is literally like kill tennis.
Tennis
like
sucks.
We hate tennis. Tennis sucks.
That's a good point. I didn't think about that.
Yep, totally.
All right. Well, I'm going to let you guys go. I appreciate you all being here. And yeah, I think the goal, like, I don't know. I feel like, we accomplished our goal of just hang and chat and whatever. Yeah, it's fun. It's cool to get perspective from everybody on, your guys' approach to things and mindsets, and fun to just chat pickleball with other people who are doing something similar. And we've got, obviously you guys all know, but if you're watching this, we've got, a bunch of us kind of in a chat. And I think we'll try to probably keep doing this. No specific set frequency or something, and varying who's there and who's not there, but sweet.
Well,
sweet. Thanks,
Sounds
guys.
good. Thanks for having us.
Stop the recording.